What if I told you everything you thought you knew about human history is, well, completely backwards? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are totally reframing the timeline of humanity and our long, complicated relationship with alcohol. So, when did humans actually start drinking? You're probably picturing, ancient Egyptian pyramid builders or maybe medieval monks brewing in stone abbeys. But that timeline? Yeah, it's completely wrong. Okay, let's dive into this. We absolutely did not invent alcohol as some civilized luxury. We actually evolved to process it. It was a strict biological necessity, literally written into our DNA way before we even figured out how to build a fire. 10 million. Let that sink in for a second. 10 million years ago, our primate ancestors were surviving by eating fermented fallen fruit off the jungle floor. This is millions of years before Homo sapiens even existed. The secret here is the ADH4 gene. Evolution quietly handed us a genetic mutation 10 million years ago that produced a specific enzyme, allowing our bodies to break down ethanol. Basically, being able to digest rotting, fermented fruit meant the difference between starvation and survival. Biologist Robert Dudley coined a brilliant term for this, the drunken monkey hypothesis. We didn't just develop a taste for alcohol over time, we were born with it out of absolute biological necessity. The smell of fermentation reliably signaled ripe, calorie-rich food. It was hardwired survival. Which brings us to a pretty wild question. Did beer actually invent human civilization? Think about it. Hunter-gatherers generally had it pretty good. Easy lives, super diverse diets. Early farming, on the other hand, was grueling, backbreaking labor that brought disease. So why on earth would humans willingly switch to that? Well, the beer before bread hypothesis suggests we settled down specifically to keep communal fermentation going. To put this into perspective, look at the number 11,500. That's how many years ago Göbekli Tepe, a massive, complex prehistoric ritual site in modern-day Turkey, was actually built. And this brilliantly illustrates the point. This massive site was built by hunter-gatherers way before agriculture was even a thing. They carved these huge stone vessels capable of holding hundreds of liters, all fueled by massive communal fermentation. The burning desire to brew beer might have literally been the organizing principle that forced us to invent civilization. Moving right along to building empires on liquid bread. 4 to 5. That's the staggering number of liters of beer given as a daily ration to the workers who built the Egyptian pyramids. And no, this wasn't some fun after-work reward. It was essential, daily caloric fuel that literally kept the empire moving forward. But you've got to realize, this wasn't like cracking open a modern light lager. It was thick, opaque, super nutritious liquid bread that they consumed through reed straws. It was actually much safer than drinking untreated Nile water. Plus, brewing was a highly respected technical profession overseen by the goddess Tenet and run primarily by women. It gets better. The Mesopotamians optimized their clay tablets by combining the sacred with the highly practical. The oldest known written recipe in human history is literally a 4,000-year-old Sumerian hymn to Ninkasi, the goddess of beer. It functioned as step-by-step brewing instructions. They even paid their workers in beer. So, let's talk about alcohol as the ultimate social technology. It's absolutely fascinating because every single global culture converged on this independently. You've got jiahu rice and fruit in China 7,000 to 9,000 years ago, grape wine and barley beer in the Near East, sorghum beer in Africa, fermented corn chicha in the Americas, and sora in India. Organizing around fermentation is just a universal human trait. So what does this all mean? It means alcohol is a social technology. Sharing a drink from the same vessel proved you weren't, actively poisoning each other. It reduces anxiety, builds immediate trust among strangers, and fosters these survival-critical alliances. It was an actual functional tool for diplomacy. Fast forward to the Middle Ages. Contaminated, disease-ridden town water was practically a death sentence. So, replacing that deadly water with pathogen-resistant beer and wine, that wasn't some wild indulgence. It was a completely rational, life-saving public health response. But then, we hit what we call the distillation crisis. Let's move to this and see how it builds. Between the 15th and 18th centuries, human technology finally outpaced our biology. See, natural fermentation hits a natural ceiling at about 12 to 15%, but the distillation leap broke those rules. You heat the fermented liquid, capture the concentrated vapor, and cool it back down. Boom, 40%. We completely shattered our natural biological ceiling. Suddenly, we had the emergence of these highly potent, shelf-stable, and incredibly cheap mass-produced spirits like whiskey, gin, and vodka. So the crucial point is, look what happened during London's 18th century gin craze. Cheap gin absolutely flooded working-class areas, causing a severe, highly visible public health disaster. For the first time ever, the sudden access to this potency forced the government to desperately step in and legislate intoxicants. When you really look at it, the history of alcohol is basically humans encountering a technology that keeps getting more and more powerful and then furiously scrambling to contain it. We evolved over 10 million years to handle the low alcohol of flora fruit, right? We absolutely did not evolve for 40% mass-produced distilled spirits. Which leaves us with a pretty massive question. Is our modern struggle with alcohol just biology trying to survive a technology it simply wasn't built for? The next time you see a drink, remember, you're not just looking at a beverage, you are looking at 10 million years of evolutionary history. Thanks for hanging out with us for this explainer. See you next time.